Welcome back to the Midnight Narrator, where the world of art conceals dark secrets and the canvas becomes a window into a terrifying reality. Tonight, we explore a chilling tale of a spouse's unsettling discovery, a journey into the hidden depths of an artist's mind, where abstract expressionism masks a sinister obsession. Prepare to confront a reality where the lines between art and obsession blur, and the images hidden in plain sight reveal a horrifying truth. Join me as we unravel the haunting story of hidden canvases. Turn down the lights, steel your nerves, and listen as we peer into the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of artistic creation. My spouse creates abstract artwork. Well, creates might be too generous. It's more in the vein of abstract expressionism, very much inspired by artists like Jackson Pollock. I've observed him in his workspace, and painting isn't quite accurate. It's more like forcefully projecting paint onto the canvas using his hands, completely unassisted by brushes. However, remarkably, people actually purchase his creations for significant sums. His most recent piece, a composition of somber and cerulean hues, scattered against a somber backdrop titled Seascape at Daybreak, the initial days were uneventful. We experienced a minor setback. I almost released the incorrect artwork. Evening stillness cant to a client. They appeared indistinguishable to my untrained eye. However, I was finding a certain enjoyment in the routine. After my primary work, I would visit the studio for a few hours, indulging in streaming television dramas while awaiting client arrivals. However, the atmosphere shifted dramatically on Wednesday evening. My portable electronic device depleted its battery power about 20 minutes before the final scheduled client, so I simply remained seated, observing the amassed paintings. I stood and subtly rearranged their positions. I retrieved the piece designated for tonight's sale, Night Vision. It was among the more visually palatable works, primarily due to its restricted color scheme. A dark, possibly near-black canvas, adorned with splatters of violet, lavender, deep purple, and white, and a sparse scattering of ocean blue specks trickling across the surface. I rested it against the adjacent paintings and returned to the desk, removing my spectacles to massage my weary eyes. Persistent seasonal allergies were a constant nuisance. Upon refocusing my gaze, however, I became completely still. Without the corrective lenses, night vision appeared blurred, and with the chaotic scattering of paint softened into indistinct shapes, a discernible form emerged. A region in the canvas's center seemed to possess fewer splatters, presenting a darker, more solid area. It bore a striking resemblance to the outline of a human figure, a figure bending forward, looming over an unseen observer, staring downwards. What in the world? I replaced my glasses, but with the return of sharp focus, the clear individual dots, drips, and flecks of paint reasserted dominance, and the underlying image became nearly impossible to discern. Was this the underlying appeal of Theodore's art acquisitions? The presence of a secondary, concealed image? But it seemed illogical. I'd witnessed Theodore creating some of these artworks. He was genuinely and seemingly randomly projecting paint onto the canvas, immersed in those tranquil monastic hymns he always played. There appeared to be no calculated precision, no way he could predetermine paint placement to form a deliberate secondary image, unless he was somehow returning to the canvases after the initial paint application, subtly modifying the splatters to create these hidden forms. Yet, close examination revealed no discernible brushstrokes to support such a theory. Or perhaps it wasn't deliberate at all, but something intrinsic to his process, something he didn't even fully grasp. I rose and retrieved another of Theodore's works, titled Rose Quartz, a vibrant array of pink, crimson, and alabaster splatters. I positioned it beside Night Vision, retreated a few steps, and removed my glasses once more. It was a hand visibly stained with what appeared to be blood splatters. My stomach lurched slightly. A wave of nausea washed over me. It's just art, I mentally asserted. People engage in extreme forms of artistic expression constantly. Consider that artwork depicting a colossal figure devouring another human. It's displayed in a reputable art institution, isn't it? There is nothing inherently objectionable about depicting a bloodied hand. Nothing inherently disturbing about painting a shadowy figure glaring down upon the viewer, and perhaps my interpretation was skewed. These images lacked overt detail, existing primarily as suggestive forms. It could be pareidolia, my brain imposing familiar shapes onto abstract forms, like an elaborate ink blot test. Maybe these were genuinely random blobs and my imagination was running wild. I selected another painting. This one was particularly unappealing, murky tones of brown and verdant green dominating the periphery, enclosing a large, amorphous pink area in the center. Spring Blossoms was its designated title. I leaned it against rose quartz and stepped back. Briefly closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, exhaled slowly, removed my glasses again. I reopened my eyes. Oh no, the pinkish area, now blurred and viewed from a distance, unmistakably resembled the form of a female body. Lying prone on the ground, covered in splatters of crimson. Why would he create this? And who would actually purchase this? Who would desire a representation of a deceased body adorning their residence? I swallowed, my throat constricted. I replaced my glasses and returned the painting to its stacked position. Was this the true motivation behind Theodore's artistic income? Was he catering to a clandestine clientele of morbid individuals, crafting pieces subtly disguised for conventional display, suitable for dinner gatherings and in-law visits? I sent a text message to the client scheduled to collect night vision, feigning sudden illness. Then I drove home, a knot tightening in my stomach, and secured myself within the house. However, even within the supposed sanctuary of my home, a sense of unease persisted. Theodore had adorned our own walls with several of his pieces. I realized then, observing them from a slight distance, that the artwork in our living area depicted a close-up view of a woman's visage, yet a dark, viscous substance was emanating from her mouth. Vomit? A spider? Insufficient detail to ascertain definitively, and the large-scale piece dominating our bedroom, positioned directly above our shared bed, resembled two figures entwined in an embrace. However, their ashen-gray complexions suggested they were deceased. This was deeply disturbing, and it defied logical explanation. I recalled Theodore creating the lover's piece. I had observed him for an extended period, over an hour. He was simply, seemingly randomly, projecting paint, absorbed in the strange chanting music that perpetually filled his workspace. Yet, the nebulous, blob-like forms distinctly coalesced into an image of two intertwined figures. It felt wrong, a violation of something fundamental about reality. I resolved to sleep in the guest room that night. But prior to doing so, I made the ill-advised decision to enter Theodore's home studio. I had inadvertently left the lights illuminated. Hesitantly, I stepped into the studio, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was significantly smaller and more confined than his downtown workspace, barely exceeding 100 square feet, dominated by an immense stack of paintings occupying one corner. The air in here always felt different, heavier, somehow colder, despite the central heating. As I reached for the light switch to extinguish the illumination, my gaze fell upon the unfinished piece resting on the easel. I had noted it numerous times over the preceding weeks in passing. But now, my perception shifted. I removed my glasses and retreated several steps back into the dimly lit foyer, my breath catching in my throat. It was a woman, recumbent on a dark hardwood floor drenched in what appeared to be blood. Except that woman bore a striking resemblance to me. Of course, definitive confirmation was impossible. Detail was lacking. However, the color palette mirrored my preferred somber gray sweater, my hair cascading across the depicted floor in a manner eerily familiar. A chilling premonition, sharp and cold, pierced through my fear. He knew. He was creating these images deliberately. And this one was for him. I recoiled, stepping backwards, knocking against a small side table, sending a ceramic pot crashing to the floor, the sound echoing loudly in the sudden silence. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to run. Then I fled the house. I didn't pause to think, didn't grab my coat, didn't even turn off the lights. Just ran. The image seared into my mind. I drove ceaselessly through the night until I reached a friend's residence, the speedometer needle creeping higher and higher as adrenaline surged through my veins. I am currently here, safe, for now. Theodore has attempted to contact me repeatedly, his insistent calls flashing across my friend's phone screen, but I have allowed all his calls to divert to voicemail. Each ring feels like a threat, a tightening noose. Each time I close my eyes, the image resurfaces, the paint splatters that uncannily resemble my own lifeless form. And there we conclude our unsettling journey into Hidden Canvases, a story that delves into the chilling consequences of hidden obsessions and the terrifying power of art to reflect the darkest corners of the human psyche. What happens when the creative process becomes a conduit for something truly malevolent? How do we escape the gaze of an artist who sees us not as a muse but as a subject for their most disturbing masterpiece? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If this tale has left you with a lingering sense of unease, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to join us on future journeys into the darkness. This is the Midnight Narrator, signing off. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most terrifying images are not the ones we see, but the ones that are hidden in plain sight.